went out to the farm.
I'm going to start the meeting in about 30 seconds to a minute.
Isn't that the meeting that you guys said?
You wait till we get here and we're stopped.
I know, and I forgot. You know, that's my fault. I should have.
Are they in here?
I have a paper copy.
Is it public comment?
Does it have a packet?
That's what I thought it was.
It's after 6 o'clock, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. If we could all rise for the pledge, please.
See if I
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Jackie.
Commissioner Wheelock,
He is coming upstairs from Community Corrections shortly.
perfect.
forgot it.
Commissioner Lathrop,
He's
excused.
tardy. Dr. Lathrop is excused. He has patients scheduled until 7 o'clock tonight and is not going to make it.
Perfect. Kropa,
Yes.
Johnson,
Here.
Crawford,
Here?
Klaus,
Here.
Chairman Maxbauer,
Here. All right.
and, I'll
I'm
do, Commissioner Merrick,
Present.
Forgot about them.
McKellar, Nelson,
Here.
Brown,
Here.
Mauser.
Here.
All right. Thank you, Jackie. Next on the agenda is public comment. Jackie, if you would read the rules, please.
Any person shall be permitted to address the meeting of the Board of Commissioners, which is required to be open to the public under the provision of the Michigan Open Meetings Act, as amended. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. Any person wishing to address the board shall state his or her name and address. No person shall be allowed to speak for more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioners' questions. The chairman shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, but shall not exceed 3 minutes. Chairperson may, at his or her discretion, extend the amount of time any person is allowed to speak.
All right. At this time, would anyone like to come forward and make public comment? Seeing no rush to the podium, I will close public comment, and we will move on to the discussion regarding the Cass Road Bridge agreements. A is the Cass Road right-of-way development agreement that is in your packet on page 2. It was signed August 21st, happens to be my birthday, 2013. Would anyone like to start the discussion on the present agreement? No one? Well, this is going well. All right. I will start. As I read the agreement, and Bob, I would rely on you to correct me if I'm wrong. This agreement requires some construction to be a significant amount of construction done by August 23rd of this year, or the agreement is automatically no. That's not why we're here. We are here because, in my opinion, well, first, I'm going to put on my "it wasn't me" hat. As I read the agreement, Grand Traverse County agreed to I guess, a blank check. There's just no other way to put it, a blank check. It says in the original agreement that if anything happens to South Airport, we're going to fix it. If anything, it just, in my mind, is a bad agreement. I'm assuming that everyone has read it, and I'm also going to assume that the County Road Commission believes this is a wonderful agreement for them. So I'm, does anyone disagree with that? All righty. Moving on to the proposed agreement. Jim, would you like to explain the proposed agreement, which we were told was a first step towards a negotiation of, to summarize, who pays for what?
I'd be happy to. Do you want me to do it from here, or?
No, go right ahead and from where you are, please.
Okay. Let me just, I'm going to pull it up here.
And it's a First Amendment to the August 21st, 2013 development agreement. And I just want to make that clear, that it's an amendment, a proposed amendment to the original agreement.
Yeah, that's correct. What we have, what the Road Commission has proposed is an amendment to the original agreement. And as you go through it, you know, it basically sort of redefines a lot of the things that are in the original agreement, such as the funding, which is the local bridge grant fund. Also talks about the construction of the Road Commission development. Again, that's just a redefining what the Road Commission development is, which is the bridge. Same with the construction of the county development. Again, it just reiterates that it is basically the river restoration project. When you get to section, let's see. When you get to section 2.4, covenant to pay financial obligations. So I'll just go through it. Except as otherwise provided in this agreement, the county shall utilize its own funds for the county development, including the portion of the cost of the design and construction of the Cass Road Bridge right-of-way not covered by the funding.
Okay.
Again, the funding is the local bridge
All
grant.
right, I want to clarify for members of the public who may be watching, county development is the removal of the dams and the construction of the road and construction of the bridge, correct? As I read the terms in the original agreement? Not the bridge?
No.
Okay, the road and removal of the dam.
Yeah, it's basically anything associated with the river restoration project except for the bridge.
Except for the bridge.
That's where I have a problem, because I don't think that the building of a road is part of a river restoration project. That's my issue with this contract as written. The definition of the term county development and road commission development, as I know you're aware from our discussions, was my sticking point. I agree that the Boardman Dam is an asset that the county owns and is responsible for either removing or repairing, and we chose to remove it and made a commitment to that many years ago. But I don't remember a commitment to build a road. I think the Road Commission builds roads.
I echo that belief. The Grand Traverse County Board, and I'm coming at this from what is our purpose and what is your purpose. I believe that the Road Commission's purpose is to build roads. It is not Grand Traverse County Board's purpose to build roads. We have many times assisted the Road Commission voluntarily to dedicate general fund dollars to building roads. But we no longer have those general fund dollars to contribute. We have obligations that we have got to meet. And for that reason, I do not support the agreement as written. So I'm ready to hear from road commissioners. Anyone care to jump in?
Well,
And
let's say,
disagree?
when you say it's the road commission's business to build roads, that's true. We do the roads within those right-of-ways. And there is a right-of-way along Cass Road. This is not, I mean, it is a contract in form, but it's a right-of-way agreement. And basically with right-of-way agreements are mostly, the policy has been, you break it, you fix it. And as a part of the river restoration process, you're going to go in there and pretty much take everything out. It's the road commission's position, and always has been, that if you come in with a project, whether you're the county or with anybody, and you do that, then you have the obligation to put it back the way it was. And we'll go back historically, when this was first discussed, the road commission's position was, we're not involved in river restoration, we're not involved in dam removals, we're not involved in any of this project. The only reason we're involved in Cass Road is because they need a new bridge, and because there's a grant available from the state to replace a crossing if a crossing is lost. And going back historically for previous road commissions and previous discussions and previous commitments was, the road commission says, we don't have money to do this kind of thing. We will apply for the grant because we're the agency who can apply for that grant, who can get the grant. But our sole obligation will be the funding from that grant, period. I mean, that was the original agreement. No engineering costs, no additional costs, nothing else. Our only commitment was the road commission to provide that grant and the funding for that grant. And that was held true right up until a couple of months ago, when we did back away from that a little bit and agree to pay the match and some of the other costs, an almost $500,000 backpedal.
And I appreciate that, for whatever that's worth.
So
I
I
do.
guess we're going back to the original agreement.
Where I would disagree with that, because I do agree with you that, because let's remember, it's not a bridge, it's a road on top of a dam. However, let's pretend this whole process wasn't happening. You still had a bridge or a road that you owned that was rated at 3. Had we not been removing this dam, had we not been doing the river restoration, the road commission still would have had an asset that it had to do something to. Because, as we know, you had already knocked it down to 1 lane from 2 because of the deterioration of the bridge, if you will. And at some point, it was going to be closed. It wasn't even going to be 1 lane. So it remains a road commission asset to me because it was a crossing you had. The crossing was deteriorated. It would have had to have been dealt with no differently than how the city of Traverse City is dealing with their bridges over the Boardman right now. It's their city streets department and funds, I believe. So that's where I have the problem, is because this asset, it is odd. It's a road commission asset sitting on top of a county asset, and what a tangled web that creates. But had we not done the dam removal and the river restoration project, wouldn't something had to have happened from your budget for the Cass Road Bridge?
Don't know. I mean, none of us can look in a...
It's a 3, am I correct?
Say no. we
Because
can't.
I've been told it's...
I have no idea.
I've been told it's, oh my goodness, we can't drive on this bridge for much longer. We shouldn't be driving on it really now.
Well, if it was unsafe and was deemed, it would have been closed.
Right.
I mean, there are people who examine it, so I mean, that's a moot point. But I will go back to, I guess Commissioner Wheelock had made a statement back a couple of meetings ago at commission meetings. Welcome.
Throw him under the bus.
I think we'll have community corrections come up here and I'm getting beat up here too.
Where there was...
Well, we hope so.
We're going to quote you here, somewhat. When there was this discussion about the various phases of the project and the bridge and all this other stuff that's been these tangential arguments, was that the removal of the dam, the backfill placed in there, and the restoration of the road surface was always part of the river restoration package. Right from the beginning. Always was, still is. And I guess, in our minds, it still is. Deal, promises made should be promises kept.
In my mind, river restoration has nothing to do with the necessity of a bridge across the river. That's me.
Well, another point is the powerhouse. For instance, the Sabin Dam removal plans don't include removing a powerhouse because economically, it's more feasible to keep it if you're able to. And the Boardman Dam would be the same story if it wasn't for the fact that it's right in the way of where the road to the bridge would be going. So the county is incurring an additional cost for the removal of the powerhouse on the Boardman Dam versus the Sabin Dam simply because of what I will continue to call a road commission asset, a road. So we incur extra costs of the powerhouse in this as well, and that's also included in the definition of county development. So again, where the powerhouse being put in there is of concern to me as well. I don't think that's part of the river restoration project. And I remember with Dave and I discussing this for about a month, the two options for either removing the powerhouse or keeping the powerhouse, but rerouting the road and shoring it up with some sort of retaining wall were roughly the same amount of money. But neither one of those would have to happen if we weren't putting a road back in there.
Well, the removal of the powerhouse is done based to the fact that it, once and for all, it eliminates any maintenance of the county responsibility for maintaining that structure.
Well, what about the Sabin powerhouse? It's not part of the deal.
I don't know. I would thought, originally we were going to take out both of them, and then it somehow or another.
Economics.
Came out down to economics, yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yeah, I mean, at some point, we got to move forward on this, I think.
We do.
You know, as we start to go to this results-based accounting, in my mind, we start looking at what benefit does this project have. And frankly, it has quite a benefit to our community. The people that I represent, I know we had a big discussion about districts and county. The majority of my constituents, if you will, want this bridge, myself included. I think it's going to cost TCAPs quite a bit of money to go around. It's going to cost the commuters quite a bit of money and time and gas to go around. So I know we need to work in getting this contract tweaked to just how we like it, but I really think we need to move forward.
Well, that's why we're here.
Yep.
That is why we're here. The county board has voted to move forward, building the bridge. The vote's been taken. What we're talking about now is road construction and bridge construction. And
But we're talking about the same thing, and no offense, but the same thing about the powerhouse, about, we're all the same arguments keep getting brought up, and we're not getting either addressed from them or from ourselves. And we need to get that done so we can move forward. We can't keep harping on the same issues without getting them addressed.
I can tell you what I would like, and I know I'm not going to get it. I would like you to pay for the whole thing, as far as the road and the bridge, not the dam removal. I believe that's the county board's responsibility. That is, and I understand in all likelihood I'm not going to walk out of this room tonight getting what I want, but I'm telling you what I'd like. I understand that the county board has the responsibility of removing the dam, and as far as I'm concerned, that is the river restoration. The bridge and the road going to and from the bridge, I believe, is county road's responsibility. I know we disagree. The real question is, how do we move forward? One of the things that I really do not like about your proposed amendment is there's no end date in the contract. It basically goes on forever. And as you know, we could be sitting here a year from now and still have that dam in place because we don't have the funding for it. I don't know that that's going to be the case. And certainly, the state of Michigan could force our hand and tell us you're taking that dam out.
It's fun to say, isn't it?
Well, I have to watch my language.
He wants to say it.
You got to watch where you insert that word. So that's where I'm coming from. Commissioner Crawford.
On the agreement, there is a phrase here in 2.2A that says, in the event that the cost of the road commission development exceeds the funding, or portions of the road commission development are ineligible for the funding, the county shall be responsible for all additional costs necessary for the road commission development. That's disconcerting. What, is there any sort of, that's a blank check. Is there any sort of estimate? We have to budget for these things. Is there any sort of estimate as to what that number could be, even if you overestimate?
No, there, you know, that's in there, again, that was part of the original agreement, and we left that part in the amendment, and the idea is that with any construction, there are potentially unforeseen conditions, especially when you're talking about putting foundations in the ground and things like that. You can always run into poor soils when you're in along a river system of this type. And so there's always that possibility. There's also the possibility that the bids could come in high, you know, and if the bids come in high, and again, we're sort of held hostage in the fact that because of the source of the funding, we're not bidding it ourselves. It's actually going through the state, and it's being bid through the MDOT process. And so what happens is you know, they pick the low bidder, and if they're pre-qualified to work on state projects, they tell us, congratulations, so-and-so is your contractor, and good luck. And I'm not saying that if the bids came in, you know, excessively higher than what we expect, you know, there is some recourse. We can ask that it be rebid and things like that, but again, with any construction, there are potentially unforeseen conditions. Right now, the estimate for the construction is about $2.8 million. So right now, the estimate is below what our grant amount is for. So, you know.
So that's for the road and the bridge?
It's just for the bridge.
Just for the bridge. Do you know what the estimate is for the road? And I want, as long as I've got it on my brain, I want to talk about another aspect that I read that is concerning to me. And that is if flooding occurs and does damage to South Airport around Logan's Landing. We all know that when we had heavy rains last year, South Airport Road, the water was pretty darn high. And the dam had not been removed. So that is concerning to me as well. Do you have any plans to improve that particular portion of South Airport to help prevent that from happening?
Yeah, we don't at this time, but the one thing I want to clarify on the, you know, we're talking about the culverts on South Airport.
Yes, we are.
And in the, you know, the way the agreement is written is at this point, the county doesn't have a contractor. And typically what would happen is if say there was some kind of a failure that caused a flood, that caused the culverts to wash out at South Airport Road, typically that would be the responsibility of the contractor. And that's why they have insurance. And so, you know, we don't know who that contractor is, so the agreement says, hey, the county is responsible, but ultimately it's going to be your contractor who is going to be responsible. And the other thing I'll tell you about the culverts is our biggest concern is it's not about a flash flood failure during construction. It is more so that during the river restoration project, you have to understand that there's going to be a lot of exposed bottomlands, and until that area is stabilized with vegetation, our biggest concern is you know, after the construction's complete and we're waiting for grass to come up and we're putting logs out through this lowland area to establish some kind of environment. The issue is if we were to get some heavy rains like we've had, you know, we've had some pretty heavy rains over the last few springs and even into the falls. And if that were to happen before the banks and before those lowlands are stabilized with vegetation, there's always the possibility that we could get a flash flood that washes logs and debris down to those culverts, and then on top of it we get a bunch of sediment that washes down. That's our biggest concern. And again, typically this would be covered by your contractor's insurance.
I think there's something needs to be, I guess, laid out here. The road commission is not a part of the dam removals or the river restoration. We're not a voting member of the IT. We don't pick and choose whether the dam's going to be removed or not, whether the river is going to be relocated, or any of those things. We're simply standing here on the sidelines watching. We have no control over those things. You have control over those things.
Well, actually, we don't.
Well,
But-
through your membership in the IT or whoever is handling the river rebirthing does. It's not us. And quite frankly, the road commission does not want to buy into liabilities that we don't have and have no control over.
Ron, I'm sorry, Commissioner Klaus.
Both work.
Okay.
Why is the dam having to get removed? As I see it, as the river gets rerouted, there will be a dam that sets on dry ground. Is the road that's, the road, the Cass Road extension is going to be going somewheres in the vicinity of the existing dam, isn't it? Heading out. Why does that dam have to leave when it would seem like it would be a perfect spot to start burning dirt up to? I mean, it's only a failure because it's trying to hold water back. Dirt's a lot easier to hold back than water. I'm just asking the question to people that probably know.
Well, if you're asking the road commission, I guess not to sound crass.
Right.
We weren't asked,
Right.
and we have no input over that, and we have no authority over that.
Does,
It's not our deal.
understand that. Any,
Due to federal regulations, we were forced to make a decision. We were asked to either choose to rebuild the dam, reinforce it, or take it out. And that was for all three dams. The city's Brown Bridge Dam's already gone.
right,
Boardman was scheduled next, Sabin is last. There were two primary reasons that the county board, based upon my limited recollection, voted to remove the dams. One was we felt that it would be economically beneficial to the area and certainly environmentally friendly to put the river back to its original state. That was part of the decision. The other part of the decision was there is no money, was no money, and still isn't, to rebuild that dam. We could not gather community support, grant support to rebuild that dam. We would have had to do that out of general fund dollars. The prospect of getting grant funding, which has been coming in, but is not coming in at the rate that we had hoped, that was more appealing to the county board at that time, along with the environmental issue and the possible economic benefits. That was the reasoning. I do not recall how much it was going to cost us to reinforce that dam. I don't recall the numbers.
and that would have been, though, to just reinforce.
Reinforce the
dam,
existing
to keep
dam.
The dam as a.
About $10 million apiece.
Right.
Per dam?
But I think Ron's
if I
point
remember.
is, the river restoration project is rerouting the river away from this dam. So, to the original location of the Boardman back in the 1800s, which is where the new Cass Road Bridge will be built.
Yes.
And essentially, we're leaving a dam on dry land. You're absolutely correct.
Right.
When it is dredged out underneath the new Cass Road Bridge, that will be moved over to where the current Boardman Dam is and be part of the foundation for the new road. Am I correct? So we really are leaving the dam. We aren't removing the Boardman Dam. We're removing the blocks from it. We're removing the power process But the sediment buildup that was put there in 1920 remains, from what I understand, and will be reinforced and widened to accommodate a 2-lane road with shoulders. Because right now, obviously, the width of it does not accommodate. This is an earthen dam. You know, the original dam for the Boardman was located where the new bridge is going to be. And that was around 1880, 1890. And then in 1920, they moved the location of the dam to the current state because they wanted to accelerate the flow of the water for the power. So they created this new river that created more flow. And so in the overall picture of the river restoration project, the IT chose to reroute the Boardman River back to its original location and basically dry up where it is right now. So yeah, the dam really isn't being removed. I mean, that same hump is going to be there, but they're doing some restoration in the area. And, you know, right now, if you drive over that, like when you go to the Boardman River Nature Center, you can see it's just like a pond kind of where the original river was. So that will be where the new bridge is. It's a bridge right now, kind of. And then will be dredged out under there. So it is being left. We aren't physically removing this dam. We're just making it bigger to accommodate traffic. That obviously the 1 lane over the top of a dam doesn't accommodate.
Bill?
I would take a little issue. You are removing the dam. You're removing tremendous amounts of concrete and metal work and a
Right,
whole
the
lot of
brick part.
masonry, and also you don't build a bridge, or you don't build a road on silt.
Right.
There has to be engineered fill placed there. So to say you're not removing the dam, I don't believe is an accurate statement. You are removing a tremendous, and if you look at URS's budget, you'll see there's several millions of dollars earmarked for that very activity.
Well, John?
Yeah, some years ago, for a lot of different reasons, the decisions were made to remove 3 dams. One's gone, 2 are left. One of those dams happens to have one of the east-west connectors, the Cass Road Bridge, over that dam. And to remove it, we're going to damage the right-of-way. So an agreement was made in 2013 with the county commission to share the costs in doing all of that. We acquired some $3 million critical bridge money and decided that that was all we were going to contribute. And the county agreed at the time to pick up the rest of the cost of connecting the bridge to Cass Road and out to Keystone. Subsequent to that decision, we've anteed up to the bar, if you will, to pick up almost $500,000 worth of that additional cost over and above the $3 million in matching money, which the county was going to pay for, and was it C&E? Is that, or the C&E money and the stakings money, with $500,000, we've decided that we would contribute that amount of money. To me, it's important that we have some kind of continuum here, that decisions made in the past aren't continually, the bar continuously be moved, that there's ought to be some honor to the previously made commitments at some point with the county and the road commission. And that's kind of where I'm coming from, that continuity is important, because a lot of energy, a lot of money, a lot of work has been done based on decisions that were made in the past. And so I understand your frustration with some of the issues in previously made commitments, and we're trying to help with that in this $500,000 that wasn't part of that original agreement. So to go any further, that's a very difficult thing for the road commission to do, and myself personally. And to me, I think our chairman made it probably more clear than I can that in damaging that right-of-way, no matter whether it be the county or anybody, if they damage the right-of-way, we're responsible for the bridge. We've anteed up to do the bridge to include the additional costs, but the damaged right-of-way there's some responsibility for the people that damage the right-of-way, whether it be the county or some other entity.
Commissioner Johnson, and then Commissioner Wheelock.
Yeah, to kind of tag into what you were saying, part of the problem we're dealing with now is there were never any funds set aside for any of these grand plans from the county level. We're still on the hook for at least $2 million for the dam removals that has never been budgeted. You know, it's just a fluke that we didn't have to pay this year already for any of the Cass Road project. And I am thankful you guys have come up with what you have. I mean, that means a lot to me. One other thing I'll ask, do you have an estimate of what the right-of-ways, the road is, as far as the construction cost?
The estimates that I've seen from URS is $250,000.
That's about what I was thinking it was.
Okay, Commissioner Wheelock.
Well, again, I certainly appreciate the cooperation of the Road Commission. I think it's essential to this project. I think one of the things that we sometimes forget about when we talk about these projects is the benefit to our community as a whole. You know, we talk about, you know, we always talk about Cass Road as an east-west corridor for the people that Bob represents and a lot of other people that I know. It's a north-south corridor. It's not an east-west corridor, you know, so it's not the same thing. Many of us use that bridge on a very, very regular basis, and we all know that it's simply not adequate the way it is. We can look back and not too terribly long ago when we had a big sinkhole in the parking lot on top of the dam, and we filled it with drain field stone and laid a little bit of asphalt over the top of it and said, there, we patched it, you know, but I'm not quite sure where that soil that was under there went, you know. We are going to, as part of this reconstruction, I believe we're going to end up using most of the soils that are the portion of the earthen dam. I think most of that will be recycled into the project. But we simply need to keep this project moving forward. We are, from a county board perspective, you know, at least in my mind, this has always been the right thing to do. The bridge that's there, the dam that's there, and I always get into the discussion about the Cass Road Bridge as it's currently there. We don't have a Cass Road Bridge. We have a piece of asphalt going over top of an earthen dam on which people do drive over one way or another, one lane at a time. You know, it's not a road and it's not a bridge, and it never has been. We've just used it as an alleyway. So I think we simply need to continue to move forward, and, you know, we are to the point that it's time to make those decisions, and I'm hoping we can get to that tonight.
Commissioner Crawford.
I agree with what John said about we do need to honor agreements and things that were decided before our time, before we got here. Absolutely, I agree with that. There should be continuity. There should be, you know, integrity tells us we need to honor the agreements that were made by the Board of Commissioners, whether it was these personal commissioners or not. And I do appreciate the $250,000 estimate. That was kind of what I was looking for. Maybe I didn't phrase my question earlier very well. I just think that going forward, if we could be kept apprised of the amounts that are being spent and if there is going to be any overruns or anything like that, we just need to know as far enough in advance as we can so that we can be fiscally responsible and make sure that these amounts are in our budget and that we know that they're coming. And, you know, I don't like the budgetary surprises saying, oh, all of a sudden you owe $400,000. That was not in our budget. And that's not the responsible way to go forward. So we do need to know these amounts, and they need to be set aside and accounted for and budgeted for.
Bill.
Just so we're clear, the $250,000 that Jim mentioned was an estimate that was done by
Right.
URS, not by the Road Commission.
Yeah, it's a number to have in my head, though. That's
Correct.
good.
Yeah, and since that's not part of our area of responsibility, we haven't done those because it's ever since the beginning has not been within our realm of responsibility. So I assume URS has done a decent job, and it's a credible estimate.
Mr. Bott.
Commissioner Max Bower, if I could, we have Kim, forgive me if I pronounce your last name wrong, Balke, from CRA here, and I would like her to maybe address a few of the points that have been raised regarding why we would remove the dam structure, but also some of the funding that we have available for that road piece. She's the expert. She's worked with Jim on these matters, and she can help us as we work through this process.
First of all, thank you to both boards for continuing to discuss this project and give it such a large amount of attention. I know it's a pretty complex one, but it's good to see that you're all actively interested in it, and this is the kind of setup that we need to go forward. For the Road Commission coming to the table and providing the 5% MDOT match and also the construction engineering, that does a couple things. It helps the project to continue moving forward, and that provides local match not only to MDOT but also to some of our dam removal grants right now. So in effect, they'll be leveraging, our dam removal money. I've been doing this job a long time, and I guess I would just urge folks to think of river restoration in modern day terms. Half of my job is working with townships, county road commissions, counties, trying to fix sites where people are using them. Rarely do I find myself working in the woods on a beautiful section of stream, restoring it. I'm working on seasonal roads, county roads, and at other dams that landowners own privately. So, it's important to look at our cost estimates and see which pay item really goes to roadway development and which goes to river restoration. But again, we've been urging our funders all along to look at this project as a whole, and they have. And so I guess I would urge us as partners to again look at this project as a whole. The fact that we had funders who really were interested in dam removal help to pay for bridge design is an accomplishment, and we should always have that in our minds to be grateful for. I guess I would just verify that yes, URS had the roughly $250,000 already included in that $7.1 million estimate we gave you for Boardman Dam removal. That includes the roadway work. That's not another add-on.
Okay, so may I clarify?
Sure.
So I'm going to assume that your $500,000 is still on the table. Yes or no?
It is.
Okay.
We made that offer.
Thank you.
Then we reaffirmed the offer.
All right. Am I hearing from you that we have $250,000 for the right-of-way portion?
Up to $250,000.
Up to $250,000.
That includes contingency, and that's strictly road fill and road construction work where your powerhouse, your spillway structure, all of that currently sits.
Okay.
So that section of road.
And Commissioner McKellar?
I'm going to defer to our chair, but we keep saying $500,000, and I don't know that we want to say that. I think what we want to do is say 5% match. Please.
Is what we were saying is we are accepting
I understand
the
it was an estimate, thank
obligation
you.
for the match. We don't know what the match is because we don't know what the final bid and final cost of the bridge is. If the bridge is $3 million, it's 5% of $3 million. If it's a $2.5 million bridge, it's 5% of $2.5. So it's a 5%
Right.
match. We're guesstimating what that amount would be, as well as the cost of the other two activities, construction, staking, and testing. We believe that we can put those out in competitive bids, and possibly they'll cost less than that. But the estimated cost at this point would be somewhere in the neighborhood of about $485,000, hopefully less. But we are taking on the obligation, not the specific dollar amount, to do those activities.
Kim, the reason we're even here discussing the 5% match is that although your fundraising efforts have been phenomenal, you are not able to raise the money for the 5% local match.
Correct.
And next year, when we go to build the road and fund the road, you may not be able to raise the money for Part B of this project.
Correct. The estimate we have right now for Boardman Dam removal, and that includes everything, powerhouse,
Right.
earth and berm, concrete, that's 7.1. And in the coffers right now, with our current grants, we have roughly 2.2 available for that.
And the reason those coffers spilled over to the Boardman Dam removal and weren't applicable to the 5% local match is because the MDOT Critical Bridge Grant requires not federal funding
Correct.
as the match. So we may find ourselves in this same position next year. This, to me, this isn't a disagreement with the Road Commission. It certainly isn't. This is appreciation for their stepping up for the funding falling short on the 5% match because we don't have local money. We could be doing this again next year. I just want an agreement that doesn't have us sitting like bumps on a log again, going, why didn't we think about this? We have put a lot of faith into their efforts, and they have followed through. But they still, with all of their efforts, couldn't get the 5% local match. So here we are this year needing to fill in the 5% local match, and the Road Commission offered that up. Next year, when the funding potentially could fall short again, where do we go? And it's not in our budget, and we don't know the dollar amount. $7.1 million is a tremendous amount of money. And we need to come up with it in one calendar year or possibly less.
It's 4.9 right now as
Right,
it stands,
because
so
of
let's
the
call
money.
it 5.
Yeah.
And truly, if we're looking to remove Boardman Dam in 2017, we have actually 3 calendar years, including this one, though, including this one.
And this year, we needed to raise just the 5% match for Part A, and we were not able to do that because...
Again, it's the nature of that match.
Precisely, because it's infrastructure. People are not exactly lining up, as you said, to throw, I know the Road Commission knows, people aren't lining up to throw money at infrastructure, but they love to throw money at things like river restoration and all of that. But what we need to remember again is we aren't just restoring a river, we're removing infrastructure that we own, and in this case, replacing or creating new infrastructure with a road and a bridge. And that's why this particular process is much different than the Brown Bridge removal and is different than the Sabin removal will be. Because we're not taking away, we're also adding. And I know I've spoken to you, and I spoke to Amy as well, about the nature of grant funding and my background with 501c3s and all of that fun kind of stuff. And we could potentially be looking at, again, a lack of funding for the infrastructure component of the Boardman River removal, Boardman Dam removal. Because it is a road going to a bridge. And you tried very hard to get funders to fill in this 5% match for this bridge.
Well, yes and no, because a lot of our funders right now are federal, so you don't even try.
Exactly.
Right? You know you're out of the ballpark
But
right
Fry
there.
Foundation, you were able to take, they had a more holistic approach to their giving.
They help pay for design of the
Exactly.
bridge, and
So-
I do a lot of what we call them road stream crossing improvements with county road commissions, and our grants do help pay for pavement. The problem with the Cass Road Bridge is that it had to truly be local, and we're building the bridge ideally and conveniently before the river is even there yet. And that's really nice, because it makes things, and correct me, a little cheaper because they don't have to work in flowing water. So, if we were restoring the river through there at the same time, then there would be a little more flexibility from our funders. But again, we cannot meet that 5% local match with our government funders, so.
Commissioner McKellar, then Commissioner Merrick, and then I have a question for Mr. Cooney.
Well, I take a different perspective a little bit.
Commissioner McKellar, would you put your microphone up?
I take a little bit different perspective on that, is that the IT team, in fact, were able to secure the 5% match. The Road Commission is extremely limited as to what we can contribute funds to or what we can apply those funds to. When this body asked us to take a harder look at it and sharpen our pencil, we did. And what we did is we said, listen, and correct me if I'm wrong, any of the board members are here, that we felt strongly that we would be an additional contributor, not only the grant funds, but the 5% match, because it made perfectly good sense for us to trigger those funds out of money that we could lawfully expend on that. So they did, in fact, meet their 5% local match. I'm confused on the AB portion of this project. We had discussion on this in our board meeting as well, because up until 8 weeks ago, I never saw a diagram that ever showed A and B and how that all fit together. It was a project in entirety. And then, geez, Sonny, correct me if I'm wrong, but this discussion has been going on for over a decade, and never once did any commissioner that ever sat in this room ever think or ever make the statement that the total expense of the removal of any one of the 3 dams or all of them in entirety was going to be paid for by private or federal or state funds, ever. So there was always the inherent risk of, when you go down the path, that somebody's going to end up holding the bag. So I appreciate how uncomfortable that is for the sitting commissioners. I really do. But that's the world we're in right now. I think that they met their match. We contributed. We lawfully could. I still would like to have somebody address the AEB project scenario that was presented 8 weeks ago, because in our board meetings and in the IT meetings, I never really ever saw anything that broke the project up for funding purposes that way.
Commissioner Merrick?
I got that from Kim, so she can probably explain it. That was her way of explaining it to me, so I could understand it, and I shared it with my board members so they could.
Was that in the meeting at the road commission when you came and there was some discussion?
It was after you left.
Well, actually, I was privy to that. That was the first time I actually had heard it, so.
Then I met with Dave Bendis separately to go over it as well. I've discussed it on the phone with Jim as well, and I've also met and discussed it with you again.
Okay.
So that was just a layman's way of making a commissioner who's not a road commissioner and not a dam removal expert understand that we were building a bridge one year and we were building the road the next year.
So it wasn't based on funding as
No.
much as it was on, okay.
Construction.
And it also is
Fair
based on road construction or road commission development versus, I called you to correct, remember I called you to make sure I had this correct. Road commission development versus county development matched exactly what Kim explained to me as Part A and Part B. And Dave Benda also corrected, or, affirmed that as well with me along with Chica.
Okay.
Commissioner Merrick is next.
This has been a very interesting year for me. We've got the road talk. I'm on a committee where we're trying to raise money to build a library out in Interlochen. And one thing I've learned kind of ties into this is we got to have continuity. We got to have a lot of local support. So when Chairman Maxbauer came to our road commission, asked for some money, I started thinking about this. You had your hand out like you have for as long as I can recall, wanting some assistance from the road commission. And I started talking to a lot of the funders that were involved with it out at the library, trying to raise that money. And they said the more local units that are involved, the more power they have to raise funds. Yeah. The road commission had coughed up about $3 million through a grant that we got. But we didn't actually put any money in. We didn't have any skin in the game like they like to say. Mm-hmm. So I agreed and voted and supported wholeheartedly. In fact, I made sure I made it at that meeting to give the money that we're legally allowed to under Act 51 to help jumpstart some more funding, to get the project going. Our involvement and commitment of, I'm going to say almost $500,000, that's what it's projected at right now, is I think going to be huge to the funders who are going to be giving money. Now this isn't just talking for this project. You guys have $20 million, give or take, you got to raise yet for the whole river restoration?
Oh, yeah.
It's not quite,
Not
but
quite that much.
There's a large amount of money that needs to be raised yet.
There is.
And our commitment to give, we'll say $500,000, is going to help the funders give more money.
It is.
If we withdraw or we continue humming and hawing on this, we're not showing the continuity and the support that they like to see. That is why I personally support it. I can't speak for the rest of my board members.
Okay.
And there's limits that we can spend by Act 51.
I would be more than happy to amend the original agreement by simply adding, I'm not change anything, not change the date, not change anything. I would be, well, I would not be more than happy. That's not the correct term. To amend the original agreement saying that you will match the 5%. And because, you're hearing board members say they want to move forward. The original agreement says you move forward by August 23rd, 2015. And so, how's that? I'm just wondering what your opinion is, but before I ask you guys, think on it for a minute, because I asked Mr. Cooney if he has any significant concerns regarding the agreement as proposed. Bob?
Well, I wouldn't say significant. We had prepared a proposed second draft, I guess, and we sent it to the Road Commission's attorney, Carrie Zeitz, and we did have a conversation with her, both Mr. Forsythe and myself, and she seemed to be okay with our proposed revisions. They were not substantive revisions. Essentially, what we're doing is we're including the 5% local match and the costs and fees of construction engineering. All we wanted to do is clarify some of the parts of the amendment. And we never got a response back from that, but I think it's because we were going to have this joint meeting, and we didn't want to, I guess, go back and revise things if you were going to agree to something different. So we have concerns about the exact language of the agreement, but nothing substantive.
Okay. So any responses to my suggestion?
Kim, where does the staking fit into the 5% match? It's not included?
It's about 50,000 estimated. There's three basic numbers that are needed for the Cass Road Bridge construction, and it's the 5% local match, the staking, and then the construction engineering. All three of those numbers are included in the estimate of 480,000. If those are competitively bid out, different contractors selected.
Could be less.
Yeah, so.
Chairman Mauser, what do you think?
I guess we can get clarification from Carrie. I mean, from my original supposition, that is what we're saying is we're accepting the financial obligations of those three things, not a specific dollar amount. Correct. Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess to go back to your change it for the 5% only, why? I mean, we're offering you three things that could add up to $485,000 or more. Why would you not have all three of those inclusive in the amendment?
Well, what I don't like about the amendment is it changes the date. It says, if I can find it here. My iPad is gone. Talks amongst yourselves while I look for this.
Section 6.1.
Thank you, Dean. Where is it? 6.1. Here we go. The term of this agreement shall commence on the date first written above, which was August 21st, and shall expire upon completion of the developments. However, if there has been no substantial construction started on a development by August 23rd, 2015, or the date by which the funding must be obligated as determined and approved by the Michigan Department of Transportation, this agreement shall be terminated, and the parties shall have no further rights or obligations hereunder except those rights and responsibilities that expressly survive termination.
Well, the purpose of the amendment is to extend this agreement, and that's why that date is removed. That's why the date has been removed, because we're extending the time period for this agreement to happen. The important thing for the county board to understand is that if you sign this amendment, there's no going back. That, now we're committed to making sure that this dam gets removed and the road gets put in place. So,
Commissioner
But
Johnson?
aren't we already committed to the dam removals? I mean, this is just for the Cass Road, if I'm not mistaken. We're committed for the dam removals, or we're gonna pay one heck of a fine.
well,
You know, so-
there are a lot of consequences to not following through. Obviously, we have a lot of private donors who have contributed. That dam needs to be repaired in some way, no matter what we do, and we may start getting fined, or we may have the dam removed and the cost charged back to the county anyway. And so there are some significant concerns if we don't go ahead.
The board has voted, the county board has voted to move forward. So we're moving forward. But again, my question is why, what are the chances of having some substantial work being, how does it say? Substantial construction started on or by August 23rd.
I think Jim can answer this best, but we would actually commit to the bridge replacement by a date, and that date would have to be August 23rd of this year, but
Yeah, what I'll tell you about the date is that date originally comes from, when we originally received that grant, we had a deadline. We had the deadline that we had to have the money obligated, and we had to start construction. And originally, based on the dates that we were told originally by MDOT, or we would lose the funds, we had to have construction started by this spring. And so that's the whole reason that we picked August as substantial construction.
Okay.
Since then, and because of issues with funding
Yes.
and issues with moving forward with the river restoration project, we have been back and talked with MDOT and asked them if they would consider an extension, and we've been given an extension. And so,
Is that in writing, Jim?
Yes,
yeah.
yes. I'm sorry, I'm not looking at that right now. Is it construction has to be begun or
No, it says,
an obligation date?
if there has been no substantial construction started on a development, and the bridge is part of that development, by August 23rd, 2015, or by the date by which the funding must be obligated as determined and approved by MDOT.
Yes.
This agreement shall be terminated. So my question to Jim is, I want to understand that, and please, I want to understand completely what we're agreeing to before I agree to it. So I'm going to probably ask some, I'm not a lawyer questions, I'm not an engineer questions, et cetera, et cetera. I want to know how long we have before or when you plan to start building that bridge.
Well, we're currently in the final review process with the state of Michigan, and so the money is very close to being obligated. And so a couple things I want to tell you is, so for that reason, we know that we're not going to have substantial construction even begun by August of this year. It looks to us that the money will be obligated here fairly shortly, and then the bidding will take place sometime between, say, June and August of this year. And so currently, what we believe, and because we do not have a concern regarding the northern long-eared bat and tree clearing, except in the months of now June and July, our plan is, and we are going to budget for construction to begin as soon as the contractor wants to begin in 2016. So that's a definite. But one of the things I want to point out about the amendment is, and this is very, very critical, is at some point we're going to receive a document from the state that says,
yes,
are you ready to go?
Yeah.
And do you have that 5% match? Because we're ready to obligate the dollars, and we have to say yes. And if we say yes, and the county decides for some reason that you've decided you're not going to do your project, this amendment says that, we're not going to pay $3 million back or any other monies associated with accepting that obligation, but the county is going to pay that money back. So So there is a sense of urgency here that
Okay.
we need to make a decision.
All right,
Because we're going to be on the hook here, I would say within the next maybe month or so.
okay.
to-
All right.
To accept that obligation.
My next question is, the bridge construction obviously is separate from the dam removal. I mean, we can construct that bridge and let it sit there now, and as long as that dam, the earthen berm with the concrete and a road going over it, or a kind of an alley going over it, as long as that is in place, we do not have to necessarily come up with the funds that connect Cass to that bridge. Basically, we'll be building a bridge that goes to nowhere and you can view and look at
Well,
over dry land.
what's probably even worse than that is, and we really are going to have to do our homework to educate the public, is, you know, in 2016, we're going to build a bridge.
And a year later.
And we're going to shut down Cass Road for the entire summer, probably about 5 months. And then in the fall, we're going to open up Cass Road again, and people are going to scratch their heads and wonder why the heck they're crossing over a 2-lane, brand-new bridge, and they're going to stop at a light, and they're going to wait to cross that 1-lane bridge, and the buses can't go over with kids and,
Yeah.
and things like that.
And it's
that's
still
gonna-
going to exist.
And that's going to exist until 2017.
Okay.
As scheduled.
All right.
And that's when the river restoration project is tentatively scheduled to move forward, and that's when we anticipate that the road will be
Alright.
closed down again, the dam will be removed, the bridge will be gone, and a road will be constructed in 2017.
Okay. My next question to you is, if we build this bridge, do you believe that will help us in our grant funding quest to remove the dam?
Absolutely. It shows forward motion. If this is left stagnant, our funders will be questioning the credibility of the overall project.
All right. And Dean, I actually have a question for you, and as long as you have your hand up, this is good.
I don't know if I want to volunteer too much, but
Come on.
just to echo what Kim said, you know, at any point in time, the state, I think they're scheduled, Jim Pulaski is going to be here this summer to inspect the dam. And at any point in time, they could tell us, the state of Michigan, that dam has to go. That was the agreement that the county has signed on to. And as Kim just mentioned, we have to continue to show that we're moving forward on this project. I am very happy to see the spirit of cooperation here tonight. Yes, we have a large way to go in terms of the funding for the dam removal and the river restoration, but you know, we're taking it one step at a time, and we're all partners in this to some extent. And I'm very happy that Kim came tonight, because she understands this project far better than I do. But she's also worked with Jim and his engineer very closely on how this will be staged so that we can do it in the most appropriate manner. And it does say a lot to the funders that have contributed already to this project, but also to those that we're going to ask to contribute
Yes.
additional funds. So it's a huge project, and we all need to be behind it.
Okay.
You had a question?
Yeah, I do. Well, I was going to put you on the spot, and I don't know whether you'll answer me or not, but if you were going to make a recommendation on how you would change the proposed amendment, how would you change it?
I would not do that without talking to Mr. Cooney. I believe he's reviewed it. I don't think there are any major changes that need to be made to it, other than maybe just clarification.
Okay, I'm going to ask Mr. Cooney the same question. If you were able to change this agreement, how would you?
Well,
Other than a few language things. I'd like to hear how you're thinking, or what you're thinking, regarding back and forth communication with the County Roads Attorney, Carrie Zeitz.
I guess the only thing that we propose is clarifying some of the language, putting in a definition of construction engineering, for example. There were some parts of the amendment that we felt it was not perfectly clear who was going to pay for what, I guess, so that's...
Okay. I'm willing to move forward, but I would like to see, before we do that, I would like to see Carrie Zeitz and Mr. Cooney sit down and hammer out an agreement that clarifies whose responsibilities are whose. Does anyone disagree with that? Commissioner McKellar.
Question is Mr.
Thanks, John. Mr. Cooney's provided basically a counter proposal to our council. This board has not, again, completely reviewed that from the standpoint that we were going to meet here tonight. So I'm sure our chairman would agree that we need to do that. That was presented in good faith to us, and we need to give it the due respect of a look over and an opinion from our council.
Yep.
And I think that it would be the next step.
I agree. Before I, hang on just a minute, Commissioner Wheelock, but I will call on you next. Before I agree to an agreement, I want to read what it says. And I want to hear from Mr. Cooney, as you, the Road Commission, want to hear from Carrie Zeitz, your attorney, what the agreement says before you agree to it. I'm seeing head nods.
Correct. But
Okay. And I understand.
We offered, you countered, we haven't responded.
Okay, that's fine.
We need to do that.
All right.
That's all
I've never
fair.
seen the counteroffer.
Well, Mr. Cooney and I had a conversation, and Mr. Cooney said that, to me, that the reason that they have not really sat down and gotten serious about going back and forth is because the Grand Traverse County Board wanted to have this joint meeting. And quite honestly, I think it's been a good joint meeting. Commissioner Wheelock.
I guess my suggestion would be that, and I'm not sure, Bob can probably tell us how we should handle this, that we at least conceptually approve moving forward with this amendment. Ask Mr. Cooney and Ms. Zeitz to get together, finalize the final wording for ratification at our next full Board of Commissioners meeting, which is in another little over a week. The Road Commission could at that time, if we can possibly get it done that quickly, they can ratify it too. This doesn't have to be a final decision tonight, but I guess I'd like to see some sort of a commitment on behalf of this board to move forward with this amendment, or with approving this agreement. I still have a couple questions about some wordings that I have some notes on too, and I'm sure some of them are the same things that Bob's got. So my suggestion would simply be, and Bob, you tell me, do we make a motion to conceptually support the agreement?
Or are head nods good enough?
I don't think you need to do that. I think, you've all expressed your viewpoints here. I think you take it to your meeting at the end of the month. You probably have an agreement worked out.
Carrie, you think is that possible, Carrie, you think?
Yeah, I think so. We've got a meeting next week. I don't know.
Theirs will be before ours.
Commissioner Mauser.
Well, we could even, I guess, poll our members and see if we've got, depending on the time frame where we can get this counter proposal, and maybe have a special meeting even to sit down and do it. Our meeting next week has got, it's pretty full. We have public hearing at 6, a public hearing at 6:30. We have a regular meeting at 7.
As long as we are all nodding our heads that we're moving forward.
I guess if we can have this agreement, we can kind of take a quick poll and see if there's a day next week, early next week, where we can, this commission can get together for a special meeting.
And I would ask Mr. Cook to keep us abreast of when you receive the MDOT commitment letter or whatever it is. And I would also appreciate anything you can do regarding Commissioner Crawford's concerns, in that we need to have some idea what we're budgeting. And if there is any way that we can get grant dollars after we are moving forward with this,
Dam removal?
to help the county board
Oh, absolutely.
lighten the load on the general fund, it would be greatly appreciated. Okay,
I'm really confused. The road commission is looking at a counter proposal we provided, but we've never seen it?
Apparently. And we've never seen it either, so.
Right.
no one's ever seen it. It didn't get that far because it didn't get, this is not Mr.
It's not his fault, I
No,
understand.
it is
We're
not.
just- I think we're missing a step here. I'm
And we are, and we're going to.
The draft went to Carrie Zeitz.
Right. And so she is going to share it with the road commission, right? So that they can look at it?
And then,
When does it get shared with us?
well, why not? We can see it at the end of the month. It's the same agreement.
But I thought we were
Thank you.
voting on something at
No,
the
we're
end of the
not
month.
voting. We are not, no.
At the
We
end
are
of the
not
month.
voting. There is no vote.
At the end of the month,
I was
there will
missing
be
a
at
step.
the big board meeting.
I mean,
in a week.
well,
That's 8 days from now.
No, I think it is possible that at the end of the month, we will have a proposed,
with the glacial
agreement.
speed of government, I disagree with
well,
you, but.
no, if, I don't think Bob's thing and Carrie's thing are gonna be that much different. I really don't. And
I don't think they're really
we're gonna-
counter proposals, they're just wording.
I don't think it's a proposal, counter proposal. That's not the way I see it. I think it's just a matter of some wordsmithing.
It's basically hammering out a
Wordsmithing
mutually
some of the
acceptable
agreement.
agreement.
And I do believe that we can see at our meeting on the end of the month, whatever it is, the 30th, is
A
it?
week from tomorrow.
That we should
But I
be-
do,
we
but I
should
would
be
like
able
to see
have
the
an
agreement
that
at
we
the end
can
of the
pass.
month, as it stands now.
Carrie and I will get together, we'll agree on language, we'll get it out to both boards.
And then you guys can have your meeting, we'll have ours, and
The real drop dead date here is August 23rd.
I hear you. Commissioner McKellar,
Last comment. I think everybody's in agreement, but I want to make sure that we're agreeing on the same thing. We have a proposal, first proposal. Mr. Cooney has provided language in that which changes that completely. One word, one letter, doesn't matter. That becomes number 2, amendment 2 to the original agreement. You haven't seen it. We haven't seen it. Let's make absolutely sure that after our councils have met, that we're both looking
at the
same
same thing.
document.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay?
Yes.
Because it is. If you put a comma in, it changes.
We don't do punctuation at the county board.
Well, but that's why you have Mr. Cooney and that's why
Slows
we have
us,
Carrie.
slows us up.
Because a comma changes everything. So, thank you.
All right. If there is no more discussion, and is there any more discussion?
I just
Jim?
wanted to clarify, is your board meeting on the 27th?
No, well, wait a
Yes.
minute, is it 27th?
last week of the month.
27th, yes.
27th of
And you guys
May.
don't even meet till the 28th, am I correct?
Right.
Yeah, to have this at the end of the
It's
month
not-
meeting isn't possible.
Well, they can hammer out an agreement, we can at least look at it, and we'll know what it says.
We don't need to
We don't
vote
have
on
to
it on the
agree to it, we're not going to agree to
Right,
it.
no, what he was saying, we could vote on it by the end of the month. I
Oh,
thought.
no,
I
we're
thought-
not, no, there's no way.
Okay.
No, not, as I said, with the
That's what Bill
glacial
was
speed of
saying,
government,
it's burdensome
there's
for the road commission to
absolutely
meet
no
that
hope,
deadline.
no hope of that. But we can do it by August 23rd. Anybody else?
We're going to poll the troops, I guess, and see if we can pick a day for a special meeting prior to, so that we would have maybe something for you by that time, and set the, speed the glacier up a little bit.
All
We're
right.
pretty fast on our feet.
All righty. Anybody else? All right.
How fast would, our agenda packet goes out in a
Friday.
day and a half from now for
Right.
that meeting.
So you guys will be getting together for breakfast
Tomorrow.
Friday morning?
I think this is burdensome to our staff.
Yeah, I don't
and
think it
both
needs to
boards.
It doesn't need to happen. Look, we've got August till
Yeah,
August
We can
23rd.
approve this at our final meeting in July, and we still, Kim, would we still give you, if this were approved, the final meeting in July, we still would
Or
need
June.
a...
June.
June.
a
We could do it in
deadline?
June.
I'm
no
sorry,
reason we can't
June.
pass
I
this
just
in
mean to
June.
say
We can
July.
pass this.
Yeah, wave your hand,
Yeah,
Commissioner
June is
Merrick,
what
so
I
I
meant.
see you. Commissioner Merrick would like to speak.
We're going to be getting a document from MDOT that we have to agree to or say we're not going to do it. If we say we're going to do it, we're on the hook for that money. Grand
understand.
Traverse County.
Well, then what
Be it-
date?
Yesterday, we need to have this agreement nailed out, but we're obviously not able
Well-
to work at that speed. What issues do you guys have?
We
that
don't
you need
know.
to let
We've
your
not-
your-
we've
your
not seen-
attorney know that needs to be changed in the original document that we proposed to you?
We
I
don't
mean,
know, Andy, we haven't seen
We
it.
haven't seen it.
You haven't seen the proposal that we
And-
made to you
and
guys?
Commissioner Merrick,
Not
I
with
did
changes.
ask Mr. Cook, I said, when he gets that letter, he needs to let us know. Mr. Cook, how long after you receive a letter from MDOT do you have to say yes or no? I'm assuming that they give you at least a half an hour.
Well, I'm guessing, 10 days or something.
10 days, that's plenty of
But
time.
August isn't an accept, I mean, we're gonna need it way
We're
before
talking
August.
June, we're talking June.
Right, I mean, so we need to make sure we're moving at a fairly,
I agree, that's why
Rapid
I didn't
pace.
want to remove the
Not
August 23rd
August.
date. We are in agreement
No,
here.
I think you totally misunderstood. I said for a day and a half, it is too burdensome on our attorneys and our staff and
Yeah.
both boards to
No,
have
we-
something in
Right.
our agenda for the public to view, for the media to view. It would be absolutely impossible to do that. And that is just too strenuous on the people sitting in this room and the people that work for them. So June is absolutely fine for
It
the
is.
deadline. We meet every week. We're capable of immediate approval. We don't have to wait till the final board meeting. But this hurry and
Yeah,
and do it
we
next
don't need it
Wednesday
tomorrow.
is not due diligence on the part of either side of this contract.
And Commissioner Crope is exactly right. It is, I don't know how you feel about being a burden on your staff, but, our civil counsel does trials, prosecutions, et cetera, et cetera. Mr. Bott is carrying a heavy load these days, and Commissioner Crope is exactly right. June is fine. If you need something,
We can meet.
We can
once
meet.
a week. And that
We
would meet a 10-day
absolutely can
deadline
meet.
of any receipt of letter date.
are we all okay with that now? Commissioner Johnson?
Yeah, I would like to see it in the first couple of weeks of June, only because I'm going to be gone the
Bob's gone.
last 2 weeks of June. And something of this magnitude, I'd love to make sure my
Well,
voice...
there may not be a public health and safety
I
meeting.
think we can tentatively shoot for RMNA in June, which is
Yeah.
the second Wednesday of June.
Second Wednesday. Let's
gives
shoot for
staff
that.
and council time to prepare. It gives the public appropriate notice to see the contract, as well as media or anything.
Yeah.
And I think that
I
would
think that's-
absolutely, would that work with CRA as well?
Oh, certainly.
All right.
I think it's that obligation date,
Okay.
the more prompt that MDOT gets that obligation of the match and the CE cost, then they can bid it out sooner. And if you bid it out sooner in the year and get on contractors' to-do lists for the following year, your prices might be better.
Right.
You
All
don't want
right.
to bid last minute.
So I appreciate the fact that you were willing to come and meet jointly with us. I wish we would have done this much sooner. Anyone else before I ask for second public comment?
Just to double check with Mr. Cooney that works for you, and that maybe at our board meeting on Wednesday, you could discuss or talk about, let us see the amendment or the counter proposal.
What you're proposing, what you gave to Carrie.
Depends on Carrie to some
Okay.
extent,
All
but
right.
I don't think we're too far apart.
Okay.
Okay.
That's
Okay,
what
so
I
by
would like,
the last
Carrie.
Wednesday of the month, we can
We're
look at
going to
it.
do this. We're going to do this. Okay.
So we can put that on our agenda to discuss it the last Wednesday of the month?
I will do that. I'm in charge of
And we can look
that.
for approval on the second Wednesday of June.
All right. I think we are all okay.
I have one quick thing. When I was here last in March, I said that we would provide quarterly updates to your board on how the fundraising is going for
Yes.
the dam removal, and I'll do that in June.
I appreciate that
No
very
problem.
much. All
And
right.
you can always email me with questions in the meanwhile, too.
This is
so.
okay, and I'm going to excuse you now unless you have
Thank
anything
you.
else you'd like to add.
No,
And
thank
you
you.
have been extraordinarily helpful this evening.
Yeah, that's no
Thank you
problem.
very much.
Okay. You're welcome.
Thank you, road commissioners, for coming and agreeing to meet with us and discuss this. And I appreciate your efforts to move it along, Carrie. Second opportunity for public comment. Seeing none, we're adjourned.